Firstly, thank you for coming along to our show and tell today. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to be recording it. So if you don't wish to appear on camera, turn it off. The reason for us recording is we like to do everything in as transparent a way as possible. So not only do we record them so we can go back and reference them, but we put them on our digital YouTube channel. Again, I'm never going to earn any ad revenue from it, so it's not going out for wide consumption, but it does get uploaded onto YouTube for people to see. I did mention a little bit earlier as well, obviously holiday period, so lots of people are off, which has a knock-on impact for us in a couple of ways. One, engaging with services is a little bit more difficult at the moment, but also some of our staff obviously jetting off to nice places all over the globe or staying at home and doing nice stuff in the garden. But anyway, enough about that. So welcome to Show and Tell 28. MJ, if you haven't started recording, if you can. Welcome to Show and Tell 28, 4th of August. We run these every 3 weeks, and the purpose of running them, as I mentioned, is to tell people about what we've been doing, so that we're kind of transparent and totally open about what it is that we've been up to. We have a vision, and everything that we do tries to support the vision that we have, and it's all about giving our residents more free time by making everything they do with the council faster and easier. It's very much focused on user needs and what those resident user needs are, and we try and test as much as we can and talk to people as much as we can so that we're actually confirming that what we're doing meets those user needs. Some of the things that we've kind of done in the last few weeks, some of them we'll talk about here, some of them not so much, but we've certainly been working on blogs. We've mentioned blogs a couple of times in the last few show and tells, but actually they're pretty much live now. We've got a number of services using them, but Sally, I think, is going to talk about that a little bit later. Public rights of way, which we're doing a lot of work with as well. A great team to engage with. Flooding, we have a special guest here in a minute who from the flooding team who's going to talk us through what we've been doing with them. Ecology and biodiversity, and pensions. And pensions is a really interesting one because I always thought that we were the only people that took advantage of the local government pension scheme, but I was slightly naive in that. I think we have 160 people who are in that scheme or kind of referring organisations, whether that's fire service and our people and all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of things going on in there. Okay, so first up, I'm going to pass over to Vicky, who's going to talk to you about flooding and flood risk management. So Vicky, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Vicky Keeble. I'm the Sustainable Drainage Team Leader at the Council. So I sit in the flood management team, and I've been sort of played quite a big role with Louise and Stuart in developing our new website pages. So it's just been a really good process. It's been really interesting, and it's nice to actually step away from sort of the business as usual and do something a bit different that improves the lives of our customers and also helps us as well. I think the process as a whole has really helped me understand what goes into putting together a website, and how we need to look at it from a different point of view, not just what we need or what we think we want people to know, but actually why they come into our website and what do they need to do. So Louise and Stuart really gave us some good advice and helped us see sort of the new format for the website and how we could best develop our pages to help our customers. And really, they challenged us on who our customers were, what they were trying to do, and made sure we carried that through in the entirety of the project, which was really helpful to keep sort of referring back to. So I think initially we just looked at our pages, saw what existed, and actually it was sort of a legacy set of web pages that had come over from the county council and some from the district council, and they really just weren't fit for purpose, and they were very confusing even for us to navigate as experts in our field. So they must have been even more troublesome for residents and developers. So we looked at our pages, we identified duplicates and sought to remove those, and then we started to pull together who our customer was, what they were focusing on, and then that shaped the pages that Louise and Stuart put together, and they helped to create some content for us. They merged existing content. They reformatted things that we had and looked at updating moving away from some of the PDFs that we have. In flood management, we had a whole host of PDFs that were very lengthy and probably not many people visited. So most of those have been rejigged, or ones that sort of encompass flood investigations, which we need to publish for statutory reasons. They've been transitioned over. And yeah, I think hopefully it's improved the user experience. I've been using the website over the last couple of days, and it's helped me find things. So I think it is easier to navigate. But yeah, it's just been a really good experience. It was quite hard going when Louise and Stuart started to send us lots of pages to review, but that's because we had quite a lot of content. So it meant we were quite busy. I think yeah, using sort of Google Docs to look at the content before it went on the test version was helpful, so we could move stuff around and then provide feedback and sort of have conversations with Louise and Stuart sort of through the process was really good. I think my thing to take away and that I would probably do differently is maybe get Louise and Stuart to come to a wider team meeting, so we get a bit more buy-in from the team. It was quite hard to persuade them that they needed to spend time on this and that it was important. Some of the people that were working more closely on it really bought into that, but trying to spread that message was a bit more challenging. So I think if if I did it again, maybe I would do that. But yeah, I just want to say thank you to Louise and Stuart. They were so helpful and their guidance was really appreciated. And yeah, we really couldn't have done it without them because we would have had no idea what to do. But they did a really good job, and they're really good at keeping in contact with us. But yeah, I don't know if anyone's got any questions or.
No, if not, then thank you very much, Vicky. I probably couldn't have written a better review myself. So glad you had a positive experience with Stuart and Louise. We always know that you will. I think that point about that wider team engagement is really powerful, getting people involved at the beginning because they have a sense of ownership, if you like, and realizing why the pages that they have are so important is really powerful for us. But thank you very much for coming along and talking about it. As I say, hopefully it wasn't too painful a process. It sounds as if it went relatively smoothly. But we know how long it's been going on. It's quite a large part of the site and obviously hugely important. But thank you very much for that.
No worries. It was really good. I think on sort of the engagement thing, just something to add is probably, I think by having someone come along and explain it to the team, I think it then makes it real actually that it's affecting other people's workload, because we see the website perhaps a bit isolated to us, but actually other people are working on it and their workload is dependent on us doing things in a timely manner. So it's sort of makes them a bit more accountable, I would say.
And I think there's always we are also very good at kind of going, oh, the service is not getting back to us, that kind of thing. And it helps if we appreciate the workload that you've got, because your primary function is not there to edit or create web pages. That's kind of what we're here for. But we need your guidance and your feedback. So it's obviously worked really well in this case. So I think that's really positive. Excellent. Thank you very much.
No worries. Happy to help.
No problem. Okay, next up, Jez is going to talk a little bit about the intranet.
Thanks, Pete. So, ironically, it didn't appear on our current work streams, but that was my mistake. I should have put it on that list earlier. Sorry about that. So, last show and tell, I gave a little bit of an update of where we were at. For those that weren't there, the intranet project is something that work started on it at the end of last year and the start of this year with the service improvement team. We're now getting to the point of actually starting to implement a new intranet. So it's come across into the digital team to lead that. And the first thing is to identify the product that we're going to base it on. So last time, you may recall, we'd invited 7 companies to bid. We'd basically whittled those 7 down to 3 shortlisted organisations. Since the last show and tell, we've now had presentations from those 3 shortlisted bidders, and the evaluation team, which consisted of HR, comms, digital, and service improvement. So we kind of sat down, re-evaluated our bids, and encouragingly, we were unanimous on the company that we wanted to appoint to build it, which is great. The other thing that was really good was that when we had our presentations, we also had some external observers who weren't involved in the scoring, but also a little bit of governance, I suppose, and particularly from IT. And they also confirmed that the one that the evaluation team preferred also worked best from an IT perspective. So that's really encouraging. Earlier this week, we've made a recommendation to Sarah Ashmead, who's the sponsor of the project, and she has agreed with the recommendation. So we're now at the point of just finalising the contract details, contractual details, before we can move forward on that. And the hope is that we'll have that in place over the next week or fortnight at most, and be able to start from there. Next slide, please, Pete. So we looked at different ways of procuring this service, or the different types of service. So on the website, we have got a contract where we are building the functionality, and that's what a lot of the show and tells have been about, is how we build the functionality and how we build the content. For the intranet, the preferred solution actually is a license of an existing product. So the product already exists with many features. One of the things that or some of the reasons why we chose this particular solution is firstly, it's got a lot of staff engagement options. So one of the hopes is that perhaps there'll be less need for communications email. So you won't have so many emails going around, but there will be more updates of content on the intranet. Very importantly, it integrates well with our corporate IT, so Teams, SharePoint, and ServiceNow, and I think some of the other systems as well, such as ModGov, can all be integrated more closely with the intranet than our current service. Interestingly, there's a dedicated phone app, which is quite nice for mobile workers, for frontline workers. Possibly some of our councillors may find the mobile app more suitable than working through a desktop, so that gives a little bit more flexibility. One of the main user needs that we identified right from the outset was that we need to have a really good search on the new service, and one of the things that we like about this particular one is that it's got a search that can be, not only is it powerful and can potentially search some of our, for example, SharePoint repositories or possibly ServiceNow repositories, but it can also be tuned to help identify the most important content. I mentioned a minute ago we've got personalization, so one of the things that we should be able to do is enable you to opt into specific subjects that you're interested in. So if you've got a particular interest in waste, you might get notifications about new waste services, for example, but if that doesn't interest you, then you don't have to opt into it. And very importantly, actually, is the look and feel. It's got quite a professional looking tool, and it can obviously be tailored and branded to meet our needs. And if you just pop the next slide on for me, Pete. So on this slide, this is by no means the final version. This was just a mock-up that the providers made ahead of the presentation. But even from that, I think you can see it's quite a different, potentially quite a different look and feel to the source. Mixed there of news content, video content, some key services, and the search front and foremost. So this isn't the final version. This was just a mock-up, but it just gives an idea. And then one more, I think, Pete, please. So what are we doing next? So we've now set the intranet project up as a separate agile project, working in the same way that we do with this digital program. Initially, we'll be working in 2-week sprints, which we started now because we're thinking it's going to be quite fast moving, at least in the early stages. And in due course, we'll have a separate show and tell for the intranet, which will be working with comms to kind of widen it out to anybody that's interested. This sprint, the main things we're working on, we've got to finish the contracts I mentioned a minute ago. We want to identify the product owners for the key service areas, because like with the website, we also want to make sure that the content is user focused and helping people to tackle the key tasks that they have. So we need to work with the services closely on that. Comms are developing a comms plan. We just need to, we're in the process of agreeing the governance and reporting lines and things like how do we keep members up to date and take account of member preferences, that sort of thing. And you might also remember that from the last show and tell that we've moved a lot of the work content across into the source as a sort of interim solution. Following on from that, we're now in the process of working with HR to convert some of the documents that were download documents actually would be better placed as pages on the intranet. So we're in the process of rewriting those as content as well. So that's kind of a quick whistle stop tour of where we're at with the intranet. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Jez. Yeah, some good stuff going on there. Really excited to see what comes of it. I mean, I think we haven't really talked about frames. Looking to get something kind of MVP launched this year, with everything else following on up until April next year. But some good times ahead for the intranet, I think. Okay, so now over to Sally, who's going to talk to you a little bit about blogs.
Thank you, Pete. If I could have the next slide, please. So Colin's previously spoken to us about the work he's done to make blogs available generally to all the service teams, and was able to get this done in much shorter time frame than expected, which is really great. So our main aim was to provide teams with a new blog platform hosted on Wagtail that they can use themselves, and also with the added bonus of closing down 147 old blog pages because it was decided that it would be a good idea to start from scratch. So if I could have the next slide, please, Pete. So the teams we've worked on are teams that had blogs before. So we've had archives, archaeology and libraries. So we started with these three teams, published a landing page for each service. And as you can see from the right-hand side of the screen there, the blog enabled them to have a number of categories. Each team had 2 or 3 categories which they could post blogs under. Social media links, links out to their key pages. So that we mainly used links to their sort of contact us pages or opening times or something like that, the things that customers visit the most. And also included an email subscription function so that customers who are really interested in a particular blog could sign up and get alerts when another one's published. So we talked to the teams about their most popular blog posts they had in the past and what we could adapt and update and republish. So archives, which I've shown here, one of the most popular blogs was, sorry, I haven't shown archives, so it was the previous page. One of the most popular blogs was the Paralympic movement and its origins at Stoke Mandeville. And for archaeology, which is shown here, as you can see, it was the statue of the Roman lady from the mausoleum in Stoke Mandeville, which has recently gone on display at Discover Bucks Museum. So that was a good choice for there. So we went on to create 1 or 2 blogs for each area. We kind of edited them and used the style guidelines to write them in a nice, accessible way, and they approved them. And then after we'd done that, the web team kindly helped us out and gave the relevant people in the service teams access to Wagtail so that they could post their own blogs. So after a couple of blogs were live, we set up meetings with members of each team, and what we got them to do is share their screen whilst they practice setting up a blog, and we talked them through how to upload images and all the different styles of content you could have on Wagtail, so that they were happy to do that. And they just did that. They didn't publish the contents, they just use it as a practice. They did find the system quite intuitive. There were people that used the blogs before and they were happy with the look of them. They're happy to carry on themselves. So in the future, all we will need to do is to add or alter the categories. So the teams are happy to look after their own blogs, and we can just change the categories if necessary. And so any other service who needs a blog can send us a ServiceNow request, and we'll look at each request on an individual basis. So at the moment, so we've given blogs to people who used them before. So we felt the whole thing's worked really well. The service teams have been happy to start afresh with brand new blogs, and they've got copies of their old ones if they've got any more content they'd like to kind of republish. And into the bargain, we've managed to unpublish nearly 150 pages. So all good. So back to you, Pete.
Thank you very much, Sally. I'm actually, for blogs, I'm just going to pop to the previous page. I'm actually quite looking forward to when we have a blog post that has a colour picture, because everything that we seem to have done up until now seems to be heritage and archaeology and archives, and they all seem to have black and white pictures. Never mind. Okay, any questions? We've come to the end of our show and tell for this week. So if anybody has any questions, please put your hands up and we'll try and answer them, or drop it in the chat. Otherwise, we will see you next time, which will be in 3 weeks' time. Anybody has any questions, then please don't know. No. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. For those of you who are going off on foreign holidays, I'm looking at Colin mostly here. Have a wonderful time. Otherwise, we'll see you all again in 3 weeks' time when we'll have more to talk to you about. Thank you very much.
Thank you.